This is the most important slide up to the slides I've been talking about up to this point. This tells you how solid Social Security is. And as you can see, just a few months ago, this slide had 2014 on it. Today, a few months later, 2010. That means that Social Security is now paying out more benefits than we're taking in. Paying out more than we take in. And we know about it because we know our friends and our neighbors who don't have a job, some of them are laid off. We know the circumstance, home foreclosures and what have you, that has a bearing on Social Security. But now Social Security is not unable to pay what we need to pay, that 55 million people. We're able to pay them. And we will be able to pay them. Now I need to go back. Is that previous? Because I can't see where we're at. Yep. That's previous? That's it. Okay. This slide tells you about Social Security pay. Now we'll be able to pay, remember earlier I mentioned 80 million baby boomers? We'll be able to pay all the baby boomers, all 80 million of them, until the year 2036. And when 2036 comes, that's when Social Security will only be able to pay about 77% of what we need to pay. Now I know you guys, this is the $300,000 earning report. Y'all get more than that? I don't know about you, but if someone says, for every $100 that I'm due in benefits, someone is going to take $23 away, well, that would have an effect on me. It will have a serious and profound effect. And maybe you guys too. So what needs to be done? Some people say, well, let's change the retirement age. Well, that's been done. Can anyone tell me what the full retirement age used to be? 65. Absolutely correct. They changed it. Now it's gradually going up to age 67. Someone said, well, students in the past could receive benefits. In fact, I was one of those students that received benefits up until age 22. Now benefits to students end at age 19. There have been a lot of changes to shore up Social Security. In fact, some people say, well, let's let people invest their monies. Now, I'm going to talk about my 3 adult kids, Timothy, Jonathan, and Kimberly. If I were to give them $1,000, now this is just my kids. If I were to give each one of my kids $1,000 and say, Tim, John, and Kim, listen, I'm going to give you this $1,000, and you can use $900 of it any way you want. But that last $100, I want you to save it and you can't touch it until your retirement age. As soon as I turn around, that whole $1,000 would be spent with my kids. So investments, we know investments are with the market. The market goes up and it goes down. That's just my kids. Some of the other people have talked about other ways to increase it. Let's go and make retirement on the lower end higher. Instead of 62, let's move it up. But so far, there's been no change in that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute as we go further. Okay, so now we're ready. Each one of us, we're getting ready to talk about retirement, and I'm going to talk about your specific case in a few minutes. Do you know how long you need to work in order to be eligible for a Social Security check?
10 years. 10 years.
Certainly not like Mr. Ackerman, working one day. It is 10 years or 40 credits. 10 years or 40 credits. For years before 1978, you earn a credit if you earn $50 in each of the quarters. From January to March, April to June, July to September, October to December. If you earn $50 gross in each one of those increments, you would receive a credit. For years after 1978, it's based upon what you actually earn. This year, if you earn $1,120, you would be eligible for 1 credit, $4,420. $440, you would be eligible for all 4 credits, 4 being the maximum number of credits that you can receive each year. If you have earned 40 credits under Social Security, you're eligible for every benefit that Social Security has, with the exception of disability. And we'll talk about that a little further down the road. Okay. You can still get benefits at age 62. How many of you in here were born between 1943 and 1954? Only about 2? All the guys holding their hands up. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. But what if I wanted to sign up for Social Security at 62? Well, if you signed up for Social Security at 62 and you were born between 43 and 54, your benefits would be reduced 25%. But what if I was born after 1960? Anyone born after 1960? Okay. If you're born after 1960, your full retirement age is 67. But what if you want to retire at 62? You could receive, your benefits would be reduced 30%. 30%. So if you're anywhere in between there, it ranges between 25 and 30%. Is there anyone that plans to work past your full retirement age? Come on, I know y'all want to work past your full retirement age. If you work past your full retirement age and you were born between 1943 and 1954, for every year that you work past your full retirement age, you will receive 8% more. So here's how it looks. This lady, her full retirement age is 66. At 62, her benefits are reduced 25%, or she receives 75%. But she decided not to sign up for Social Security until she turned age 70. So she received 32% more for those 4 years, or 8% for each year. That's how you get what we call delayed retirement credits. So I know that's encouraging everybody to want to work past your full retirement age now, right? Okay. In addition to retirees, on the Social Security record, the spouse is eligible for benefits as well as the children. Spouses can receive benefits up until age 18. If they have not graduated from high school, we can pay them up to age 19. How many of you ever heard of the SSI program? Okay. It's a need-based program. You might know someone who have children that are over the age of 18 that are receiving SSI benefits. And they can receive benefits after age 18 because the parent's income does not count against them. Before age 18, the parent's income count against the child. Now they're 20-some years old and getting SSI benefits because we don't care what the parent is. They are considered an adult. If you have a child when you're getting ready to sign up for your Social Security that is receiving SSI, who is past the age of 22, that child could also receive benefits on your record. As long as we can establish that that child became disabled before age 22, we can pay that child on your record. Now let's talk about spouses. Spouses. Spouse has someone who's over the age of 62. Someone who has a child in their care under the age of 16. Okay. Let's talk about the rate that spouses receive. A spouse is eligible on the worker's record to half of what the worker would receive. So, if the worker is eligible for $1,000, how much would the spouse be eligible for? Now, what if I mentioned to you that a spouse sometimes works? Well, spouses do sometimes work. So what if I said the spouse, in the second example, worked and is eligible for $300 on their own record? Now the worker is still eligible to receive $1,000 on his record or her record. How much do you think the spouse that works can receive on the worker's record?
150.
Okay, that's why y'all paying me the small bucks, right? 200. Because they are eligible to receive a maximum of half, which is 500. They receive 300 on their own record. 3 from 5 is 2, so they can receive 200 on the worker's record. And the third and final example is this area. What if the spouse also has worked and is eligible to receive $700 on their own record? Now the worker is still eligible for $1,000. How much do you think the spouse could receive on the worker's record now? 0, because 700 is more than 500. Absolutely correct. Now let's talk a little bit about divorced spouses. Divorced spouse. The definition of divorced spouse is defined as someone who is married to the worker for at least 10 years and divorced 2. Married 10 and divorced 2. But unlike the married spouse, the divorced spouse can receive benefits even though the worker has not signed up to receive benefits. I can keep going. Should I go back through it again? Unlike the married spouse, the divorced spouse can receive benefits even though the worker has not signed up. Is there a limit to what the spouse is what?
The ex-spouse. Isn't there 4 ex-spouses that are all? Or you have married 4 years?
Well, my question is, can multiple spouses potentially receive benefits on the person's record if they meet the 10 and 2? Yes. But they can only receive it on the highest one's record. If they had 4 spouses and all of them eligible for Social Security, the one that pays the most is the one's record they would receive benefits on. Yes.
The amount that my ex-spouses might receive, does that affect the amount that I receive?
That's a smart man, you.
Glenn has a few of them.
Whoa. That's a good question, and I'll tell you this, the answer is no. The amount that, no matter how many spouses come on, it doesn't affect the worker, and that divorced spouse's amount does not affect the married spouse. Okay? All right. Yes.
What if the person died and one of the he was remarried, but the first ex-wife, can she still sign up for that?
Well, I'm trying to keep everybody alive for a little bit longer. Kill them all for a minute, I promise. So now, the ex-spouse's amount does not affect the worker, and it does not affect the worker's new spouse. It's important to know that that's key. And 10 years requirement is what's important. All right. Now, earlier I mentioned to you about the 4 retirement age and the 4 retirement age. If you had a booklet, pulled the booklet from the table called Retirement Benefits on page 6, in case I didn't mention what your date of birth was, so you can look at it, it'll tell you what the different breakdowns. It's the same as it was. All right, how do we figure your Social Security benefits? In very few minutes, I'm going to get to government pension and windfall elimination. Social Security is based upon your highest 35 years of work. We pay you based upon your highest 35 years of work. And we average it. We average those 35 years of work. Now see if you can agree with this. If you work 35 years, many of you have worked at jobs that I call the McDonald years. That's those early years when you was making minimum wage. Say, for instance, if you can think back to 1970, let's just say 1970, your age when you were in 70. If you were born after 1960, you probably can't remember a lot of that, but that's okay. If you were working is what I'm talking about. If you go back to 1970 and you work those McDonald years, let's say if you worked in 1970 and you made $9,000 at your age that you were back then, would that be considered a good year?
Yes.
Very good year. Absolutely.
Good year, 1970.
Yeah, that would be a very good gift. And that would be not just for young people, but for adults too.